All right, everyone, welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where we have hard conversations, hear people's stories, and challenge perspectives. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, or I guess if you're watching on Spotify, because they do that now, we are in a whole new location.
Oh, we are. Yes. We're buzzing. We have a new space team.
We are so excited. We're
simple.
trying out this space.
Yeah.
Bigger things, better things.
Yeah.
We're coming.
We are. This is a stance of more commitment from
It
us.
is.
Yeah.
And we have couches now, which is...
And posh lighting, which you can't see, but...
Yeah, but I mean, you can see it on our faces, hopefully.
If we look better, this is why.
It's why, yeah. It's not us. It's just the lights. But yes, we're coming at you with a whole new series today.
Yes.
And it's going to be a good one.
It is.
We're also calling this one... Okay, well, I have a few ideas for a title that I haven't told Zach yet.
Okay, here we go.
So if by the time you're watching this, it's called What in the Worldview? I think that's funny, right?
Oh, I get it.
Right? Yeah. Because we're talking about worldview today, guys. AKA Philosophy for Dummies with Zach and Courtney.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, we found 7 questions online.
Yes.
And basically this is kind of these 7 questions, you answer these and you kind of shape that worldview that you have through answering these questions. So we're going to look at that today. We're going to kind of talk about how, whether it's past experiences or things that you're going through now, kind of shape that worldview and how those effects kind of shape how you look at the world, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so obviously, like, we're going to start today. Today's like our intro episode. And then we're going to have a few more episodes in this series where we kind of dig into it. We would love to talk to people that have a different worldview than we do.
Yes.
Because that is very important. But that's why we're having this conversation now, because everyone has a different worldview, but a lot of times we don't understand that. And so we talk to somebody as if they see the world the exact same as we do.
Yeah.
Because we're going to find out today, could not be further from the truth.
No, yeah.
So Zach, what is a like worldview and like why is it important? Like what's kind of
I feel like this, to be honest, I think this is, everyone thinks of a worldview, it's like, you might think like political or kind of certain thoughts and observations about certain matters or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think it actually goes a lot deeper. I feel like honestly, when I was answering these questions or just going through them, I was like, actually, this is important that I go through this myself. Even though maybe subconsciously I already have certain perspectives and views, like for me to actually know exactly what I think. Because then I know why I react a certain way or why I value certain things. And I think it just, I don't know, whatever your worldview is, it kind of just shows people like where you stand in the world. And then you can also understand other people a lot better because of whatever their worldview is. So it's kind of just a basic generic kind of like where you think things come from, what's the big meaning of life, all those kind of big, purpose and things like that.
Yeah.
What's your purpose on this planet? Like questions like that and
thing.
how it's all created, like those sort of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big ones.
Yeah. You'd be surprised at how those answers affect then our day-to-day life, honestly.
Because it literally is the way that you, like, the lenses through which you perceive everything, right?
Yeah.
So if you, I don't know. I'm so excited. I'm so pumped. I did a lot of research on this because I think it's just so interesting.
Yeah.
You know? And the fact is that there are so many different perspectives. But, like, before we kind of get into, like, the 7 questions, if you will, of the worldview, like, how do you see it as, like, the things that shape our worldview? Like, is it something that we, like, are born into? Is it culture? Is it our decisions that we make? Like,
I think so often people have this perception of like their life experience will shape these answers. I feel like that's a common thing that we're going to see. At least that's what I've maybe noticed in my conversations with people, is like their experiences have shaped those answers. And I feel like then everyone's got, we've talked about this before, like the whole relative truth space and kind of how truth changes for different people. Yeah. And so for me, it's very much like I've come into something that's like truth. Like I've walked into it as in like I'm born and there's already truth that exists. It's not for me to create and come up with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like obviously us having faith and believing there's a God that created this whole place and stuff like that. Like obviously that's my truth and what I stand on. And then biblically we can go into stuff like that. But yeah, that's obviously where I stand. And I know you stand in the same place. So I'm not going to speak for you though. But yeah. I just feel like that's just a common thing we'll see. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. But I don't think that's just the only thing. And then obviously when different religions come into play, then people have different beliefs.
Or lack thereof.
Well. Yeah.
But I think it is really interesting how much like religion and faith does play a part in it, because a whole, like a big chunk of worldview is like like right and wrong is like morality.
Yeah.
Right? And like how do you perceive right and wrong and what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. I don't know, because again, if you don't believe in a God, then the way that you perceive right and wrong are going to be completely different. But that is a whole other question.
Like what's
for
it
later.
based off of, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I do have a quote. I would love to tell you where it's from, but I didn't put the note. So it's from some website on Google. But it says things such as personal experiences, genes and environment, personal reflections, the kind of cultural influences we are subjected to, and a lot of other aspects play roles and affect our worldview. So literally everything.
Yeah.
So like the families you grow into, your cultural influences, your personal experience, even like your genes and environment, like that's crazy. Like that's like genetic things.
Yeah.
So this is something I think as well, like you don't just wake up one day and go, okay, this is my worldview. And if we are going to like figure out what our worldviews are, we really need to kind of like unpack it.
Dial down, yeah.
Yeah, and figure out, okay, where did this even come from? Or why do I believe this? And we always talk about critical thinking.
Yeah.
Why do we believe what we believe?
We love it, yeah.
We love it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, the goal for this episode as well is for you to be able to ask yourself these questions. And yeah, see what your worldview is or where you stand on these matters. And because it's me and Zach, this is going to be a very basic conversation that hopefully everyone can understand. But yeah,
I was thinking about this. I was like, well, what's worse, right? If not worse, I don't know if that's the best way to phrase it, but
worse. Let's do worse.
Let's do worse.
It's dramatic.
Like if there's someone who has a specific worldview or a thought of something, and it's very like weird, like off, like this something that's
like that we're in a simulation.
Yeah, or some right. But they've answered all these questions.
Yeah.
Like these, let's call them the 7 questions. I don't know. Like we're not gonna base everything off of this, but but they've like actually been intentional about like, oh, this is what I think, this is where I stand. Or someone who doesn't answer these questions and just is very passive in the way of like, yeah, just see what's going on in the world and kind of maybe like morally they get things right, but they're not like, I don't know, they're not going any deeper. Like there's no purpose or there's no meaning really, like because they're living in such a passive way. I know like in my mind, yeah, obviously like right and wrong, sure, but I would much rather have someone who can actually dive into these questions and topics and stuff and actually like make decisions for themselves and have a bit more like, oh, there is purpose, even though maybe they're looking at the wrong thing or whatever. Like I would much rather someone like that, honestly, because
then someone that maybe is making a morale like
it's just very like up with the fairies. That's an English phrase. You know,
I'm going to need a translation on that one.
Like up in the clouds.
Okay, yeah. The fairies. Wow.
Yeah. Have you never heard that before?
I've never heard that before. Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Yes, cool. So back to worldviews and not fairies.
Yes.
I suppose that could be a worldview though.
It probably is.
It probably is a worldview. Yeah. But something that I also found interesting is that worldviews like affect our personality, but they also affect our society.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool because, and again, it's not just, okay, this is what I think and it just only affects me. Like, obviously, the way that you view the world will shape how you, like, act in it. You know what I mean? Which then, in turn, shapes society. When you have a bunch of people act, you know what I mean?
A certain way,
I thought that was so cool because it's such, like, a personal level, but then also, like, a societal level. And so when you have a bunch of people with the same worldview in a society, like, that society then, like, turns into that worldview or, like, adapts to that.
Yeah.
And so, like, I love the idea of, like, again, getting out of ourselves, you know, and actually being like, okay, like the way that I perceive the world, the way that I'm viewing the world, it will actually, like, have so much more of an effect than just me.
Yeah.
And again, we're so selfish as people.
Yeah.
That we're like, oh, it's just me. If I believe this, I believe this or whatever. But it's like, I love that. And I love the idea as well that, like, a bunch of people with the same worldview can, like, actually create change.
Yeah. Boom.
Boom. Anyway, should we just get into the questions? Awesome, because I have no idea how long this is going to take us.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Well, we do have a time limit here, so
exactly.
So yeah,
guys, if you're going to take notes, this is the time. This is your homework.
Here we go. Yeah.
All right. So there are 7 questions that every worldview must answer. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
According to Google.
According to Google and the couple of articles we read.
Yeah. But these are good. Yeah.
They're really good. They're good. Question number 1. Are we ready for this? What is the nature of ultimate reality?
Boom. Yeah.
That's that.
Okay. Did you know what is like? Not everyone knows what ultimate reality is. So
exactly. So here are some samples for every question. I have some sample answers of what they could be. But you can ask yourself questions of: is there a god or gods? Where did the material world come from? Is there the supernatural? Is reality personal or impersonal? Right? This is like big picture reality that we've got going on here. And what is the nature of it?
Yeah. Basically like a fundamental power above everything. Like, is there that basically? Yeah.
They say, a lot of like this question should basically answer, do you believe in the supernatural or not? Yeah. And if you do, is it like there's a god that created it, or like there's just ghosts hanging out around your house? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you believe?
I do believe that there is a god.
I feel like we should just say like where we do stand.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because then when we have other conversations, you know what like our worldview is. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I definitely believe that the world was created by a personal god. Yes. And that includes the supernatural because he's not natural. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of other answers can people give? Like obviously the ghosts and stuff, but are they,
the ghosts. Yeah,
I mean, whatever that is. Yeah. But are they like? I actually don't know if there are religions that go.
Well, yeah, you can have something that's more of like an Eastern religion where you believe in like a multitude of gods, you know, or you can have someone that's more an atheistic point of view, which is like, no, there is no supernatural. It is just the physical.
So it still answers the question, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on, because then this will affect literally every other question as well. Like, is there more than just what meets the eye? You know. Yeah. Yeah. Where do you stand?
Well, I also believe in a personal God. Yeah, just to clarify that. I feel like, I don't know. I think this is a funny question because I don't think everyone can, like, it's either yes or no for people. But even that is, even no is a perspective or an answer to the question, right? Absolutely. So it's like no, and then is there anything to unpack? And then you kind of move on. Like, it still shapes your worldview. It doesn't mean you don't have one kind of thing. Exactly. So, yeah.
Amazing. Question number 2.
Go for it.
Okay. What is the nature of material reality? All right. So the stuff that we see in front of us, right? Is the material world an illusion? This is my favorite. Okay. So like side note, I was going over these with my housemates last night, you know, practicing and, you know, the like. And we like were stuck on that for so long. Like, and then by the end of the night, we were like, everything is an illusion. This is a simulation. Stop disrupting it. And we were going to say, this is like our new thing. If we don't want to do something, like, well, the material world is an illusion anyway. So like, it doesn't even matter. I'm sorry if that's your worldview.
Easy to escape.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry if that's your worldview, but it is an easy escape. So is it an illusion? Was the material world created or uncreated? Orderly or chaotic? Subjective or objective? Eternal or temporal? Woo. A lot of big buzzwords there that I love. Yeah. Okay, you go first on this one.
Great. Like on our worldview? Yeah. I mean, I believe that God created us. So, yeah, I feel like, well, it's not an illusion. Yeah, I guess it's just where I stand. Yeah. Things are as it feels or seems or whatever.
But is it more than what it seems? Going back to question number 1.
Right. How do you mean? Is in the sense of...
Because things are as they seem. But then if you go back to
I don't think this wall is not actually a wall. It's like a bird as well. Like, I don't think... like, I'm not in that kind of illusion, if that's what you're asking. No. Hey, look, this is why we're having this conversation.
And this is why we're not philosophy teachers.
Yeah, but... Anyway, I keep pointing at this wall today. Anyway.
It's right there.
I'm going to say anything about the wall. Yeah. I mean... Yeah, I don't know if there's that much more I'm going to add to that.
I like the orderly or chaotic.
Yeah. I believe in order.
Yeah, but I think that we made it chaotic.
Right.
So I think that it's chaotic, but not by design. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I believe that there is a God of order who's bringing order, but people and like evil and bad things have come and have made it chaotic.
Yeah. But what is... I remember we did that, like, an episode.
I think this is our first series when you joined the team.
It was, yeah.
Memes.
Yeah, memes, flashbacks. But, like...
Can we do a montage?
Well, yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Of course you don't.
So, yeah. like chaos and like
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. But I think what we came to a conclusion of with that one was like order is good and there is order, but it's like what do you do when there is chaos and stuff,
Yeah.
and like how you move in chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, slightly different tangent there.
A little bit, but if you want to know more about that, go back to our
Episodes,
our old episodes.
First ones, yeah.
Yeah. What about subjective and objective and eternal and temporal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I believe in an eternal life. Yeah.
But we're living in the temporal.
We
I
are.
love the tension of it. That's why I love this question.
Well, where do you?
No, yeah, like I believe that like there is a tension between the eternal and temporal. Like this is temporary. This is not eternal.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Me, like my body is
Yeah.
temporal.
Yeah.
But there is the eternal, because you go back to your answer to
First
question one,
Yeah.
right? And like what is the nature of ultimate reality?
Supernatural, yeah.
Is that there is some more than just this world. So we're living in the tension of the things that are temporal in this world, and then the things that are eternal
Yeah.
outside of this world.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is a great example because if you live in the temporal, you can do like you kind of have like a free life, right? Where you
Yeah.
can just do what you want almost.
And a lot of people like have this worldview. Like this
Yeah.
is a very common worldview. So when we're talking to people,
Yeah.
like you can't expect them to get it
it's-
necessarily.
It
You know what I
is
mean?
interesting because I feel like then also like it not excuses, but it explains like people's actions because they're like we move in a way that's like beyond like we're thinking of like a future life almost, or kind of like it's not in a way of like what I do now doesn't matter because like I'm just gonna die at 70,
Yeah.
75.
Raise
So
it up,
young,
come
yeah.
on.
I know. But well, like whatever the age is, and
Yeah.
it's just gonna like, do you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
less consequences to my actions and how I move. So people are a
Yeah.
lot more like.
This is also a question later on. So let's hold our horses because I love that question too.
But like, so,
But it's true,
So,
it's
so when
true.
I'm talking to
Yeah.
people, I'm listening to them from a place of like, you actually like, a lot of your actions are just all based off of like, it's based off of fun and like what in the moment kind of things, right?
Yeah.
People who do live in the temporal, not the like eternal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just helps me understand and maybe talk to someone and like know how to engage in a conversation with someone who has that perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a worldview that they have, and that
Exactly.
explains their actions. So I feel like that's another example of what we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
You don't realize it,
You don't.
but it's there.
And you're like, why don't you agree with me? Why don't you understand? How come you can't understand where I'm coming from? I've been
Yeah.
in that like conversation so many times. I'm
Yeah.
like, why don't you understand where I'm coming from? It's because they literally perceive the world completely differently.
Differently, yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Do you feel good with your answers?
Yeah.
Do you feel okay? Cool. Cool. Number 3, guys. What is a human being?
Come on.
What is a human?
What
Are
do
we
you think?
evolved biological machines? Some type of god or potential god or like energy? Or are we created in the image of God? There might be another viewpoint, but I think those are probably the
very few,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. I believe I was created in the image of God.
There you go.
Personally,
Boom.
you guys can probably just get what our answers are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we have to say it.
It's yeah, it's still good to say though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is also interesting because if you have more of like a new age kind of
Yeah.
like worldview, you're probably going to think that you are like
Can-
a god inside of you.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Or like that divination, which is what a lot of like new age, which is so many things,
Yeah.
so many things. But it's a very popular belief right now, a very popular worldview,
Mhm.
shall we say?
Does this
Um,
relate to like energy and stuff like that? You know,
Yeah,
that whole chat?
exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of it like comes from like, oh, we have divine energy in us. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you're like a Christian like us, you might say like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like the Holy Spirit's in us.
Yeah.
And like, oh, it's kind of the same, but it's actually quite different
Yeah,
because
it
it's like
is.
we're all these gods waiting to be awakened and like
Yeah.
enlightened. Or you might not believe in any kind of higher power at all. So you have a very like, oh, we're evolved biological machines essentially.
Yeah.
So we're just evolving. It's just natural. It's just the physical.
Yeah.
So
Does this relate to the afterlife? Of like, you know, when people, I don't know what it is called, but the whole thing of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a horse in the next life.
it's called reincarnation.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, 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 yep.
Reincarnation. That's
Yep.
the word.
Well,
I have it up
that's
here.
our next question. So I think it does.
But like, it does relate though. Like, surely, because if, well, like,
Well, you can start connecting worldviews, right?
Yeah,
so if I believe that we're just like biological machines, then I don't believe really that there's kind of any sort of supernatural or like eternal. So I'm living in the temporal, you know, and like they all start to kind of like click together. Which is good, you know, because your worldview should not be erratic. It should make a little bit of sense. Right? Yeah. Some sort of continuity. So that leads us to number 4. What happens to a person at death? I can't like lie. I did not think this much about this question until but this literally changes the entire course of your life. And I never thought about that because I always took it for granted that I had this worldview. I've just had the same worldview my entire life. I did not realize like this changes the way that you like literally move about your entire life, whatever your answer is to this question. And you already kind of touched on it. Like if you're living in just a temporal and believe that nothing happens in the afterlife, then literally what the heck is any of this for?
Yeah. And it really does affect how you move. Yeah.
It totally does.
It like you just live for fun. You live for the pleasure of things and to get that adrenaline, the buzz.
I do love the buzz.
Yeah. Okay,
so here's some common answers that you might find for this, okay? So what happens to a person at death? Do we just cease to exist? Like, that's it? Nothing.
And it's done and dusted,
Done and dusted. Are we transformed to a higher state? Do we reincarnate? You know what I mean? So there's kind of more along the, like, New Agey kind of Eastern mysticism and religion lines, right? Yeah. Or, like, the multiple gods thing, or divination. Divination is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Do we go to an ominous, like, other side that no one really knows? It's just kind of like this new state of being. Do we enter a spiritual realm, like heaven or hell, based on our life and our choices that we made in life? Or does everyone go to heaven?
There you go. Have you heard of, like, okay, I'm going to state some things here and I have no idea if it, like, the world is a star, right? Like, in the science of things.
The world is not a star. It's a planet.
No, it's a planet, but, like, no, it's a sun. Wow, what am I about? Sorry, guys. Wow, I'm getting confused. The sun is a star, right?
They're going to do a new series on astronomy.
Sorry, I'm getting confused. The sun is a star,
yeah.
Right? So have you heard of the stuff about, like, by this time, the sun's going to be no more and things like that?
Yeah.
So I wonder when the conflict of interest comes in, when it's like, well, scientifically, like, the world's not going to be here by this time anyway.
Right.
So does that change, like, you know, I don't know, like, does it change anything to do with, like, what is next or how long I'm going to be here for and questions like that? Because honestly, like, I don't know, honestly, the answer, but, like, when science comes into play and, like, how that contradicts maybe certain beliefs and their perspectives of it, like, science says this, but if you believe in the supernatural, then science isn't everything, right?
Yeah,
but
it's there, but it's not.
But if you do, then you must just base things like that off of science, right? Because that's the only kind of truth you have to answer those questions.
I think then that kind of worldview would be more along the lines of, like, the temporal or, like, the physical, right? Everything is just limited to what you can see or fact or, like, what can be proven. I think. But it's true. Like, if you're like, okay, well, you know, in this many 100 or 1,000 years, the sun's gonna explode, the Earth won't be anymore. Who cares about global warming? We're all just gonna explode anyway. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's so sad. Imagine not caring.
No, well, honestly, it feels like you either care or you don't care. But then when you care, you go down the lines of, like, different ways of caring. Let's call it.
Different ways of caring. Yeah. Different ways that you too can care. Interesting.
Yep.
Hey, good point. Hey, what do you think happens after death, Zach?
Well, I believe there's a heaven and hell.
Based on our actions.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because if you believe that everyone goes to heaven, because how could God be bad?
Well,
then does it matter?
Good question,
what we do? Because I guess maybe in my, like, that's maybe a belief that I come into contact with the most, is that people are like, well, like, doesn't everyone, or like, this person was a good person. Yeah. So why did they, like, are they going to be in heaven? I'm like, well, I don't know about that.
Tough.
I don't know their personal lives.
Yeah.
But then that worldview kind of like, but then where is morality? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, the truth is, if you don't believe in a God, then
then what's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then how can you believe in a heaven if you don't believe in a God?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we find these things out when we talk to people, or at least like, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see people's perspectives. We want to get some great guests on. Yeah, yeah, whatever that was.
Yeah, it was the excitement. I felt it. It translated through the camera, I think. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I feel the same as you, Zach. So good job.
Okay, wow, we're high fiving. Here we go.
That's so funny. After I also told you the other day how much I hate high fives. That's a fun fact. Question number 5. Why is it possible to know anything at all?
This is an interesting one.
It was.
Yeah.
And I went, I don't know. And then I was like, that's the point of the question. Anyway.
But even to have this conversation, you have to know
exactly
what knowledge is. Like I was looking up something along those lines. Yeah.
And why do we have the ability to have knowledge?
Why? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no other animal has it. I mean, we're not animals, but but you know what I mean? Like no other like living being has knowledge like we have knowledge.
Yeah.
So some people might ask themselves, is it consciousness or rationality developed through evolution? Is there no reason for our knowledge? Like we just have it just 'cause? Is knowledge an illusion? Maybe. Are we made in the image of God who has knowledge and then reveals it to us?
Well, if you live under the whole illusion space, then knowledge is just an illusion as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Like we don't actually know anything.
Yeah. And it's all just this place that we're making up in our minds.
Do you think like if you have a more of like an illusion-based worldview, it's taking like the critical thinking thing that we love so much to like the extreme that you start like thinking critically of literally everything and then start doubting everything?
Great point. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, but I feel like that's not like, well, critical thinking is where you,
I'm like,
there's a difference, isn't it? But
my thing is, how do you get into an illusion
it is the extreme
worldview?
Yeah.
Because you start to doubt everything around you.
Yeah, because that's different, isn't it, to having critical conversations?
Then
to doubting everything. No, I know. It's the extreme. You're
hey,
right.
I'm not attacking you.
No,
I'm just attacking the topic.
Right. No. Yeah, I'm taking this personal.
Go back and listen to a few episodes ago, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, I think, we're pretty set. Like, yes, we're humans and we know things.
It's literally, on that, basically.
Yeah, and I believe it's because God knows things, so we know things made in his image.
But also, I think, like you said, I feel like this is just one of those connecting ones. Because I actually think out of the 7, there's, like, I think there's 3, like, core kind of ones that, like, shape, or the base, the foundation, if you like. And then I feel like these are, like, the in-betweens, if you like, almost. But I feel like... Yeah.
That, like, connect the dots.
A little bit, yeah.
All right, are we ready for question 6?
Yes.
Here we go. Morality. How do we know what is right and wrong? Are right and wrong a product of human choice? Like, do we just decide what's right and wrong? Is it determined by what feels good? An evolutional development of a survival mechanism. Like, in order to keep ourselves alive, we figured out what was good and what was bad. Because what was bad killed us, what was good made us live. Fascinating point of view. I love. Yeah. Is it learned by experience? Or, like, what pleases the gods? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Or made in the image of God who is good and reveals what is right. I think you guys know what one we're going to say for our worldview. But I don't think we have to keep on going over it every time.
But, God sets some moral standards, doesn't he?
Yeah, so. He is good. And he sets boundaries and reveals.
But I think this one is the one that like relates to a lot of what we were talking about before and stuff like that. How past experiences shape things.
Yes.
Emotions will shape things. Yeah.
And if you're living in a relative truth as well, then like there is not necessarily a right and wrong or like it's okay what feels good for you, what feels good for me, you know, or what keeps you alive, what keeps me like Yeah. And we sorry.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, and like this though is not just our personal things. If you look back like societally and culturally over history, do you know what I mean? Like it's not just like, oh, I decide this is good or this is bad. Like eat this, don't eat that, or whatever.
Yeah.
But like no, like as societies and as cultures, we've literally built our cultures around good and bad and right and wrong. And do you know what I mean? Like what's culturally acceptable and what gets you in trouble and what's, you know, all these things.
Yeah.
I find fascinating.
And if you live in that temporal space and you're just doing things to please yourself, like truthful, it'll just be relative because you're just, oh, this is great. This is this is what life's about. It's just about the moment. So what's going to get me to the best moment? Doesn't matter what's in the way. Like moral standards go out the window kind of, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like genuinely. Yeah. It's a very big thing, I feel like.
But then again, you go to the flip side and say, okay, like, you know, are you like learning right and wrong based on what pleases the gods? It like reminds me of when I was like in Southeast Asia for a bit, and they literally had, I forgot what they're called, but they're like little houses in front of like their homes.
Yeah.
And it's like for their ancestors, and they have to give like a food offering to their ancestors like every morning, like tiny little temples like outside. Morning, night, I don't know.
What happens to the food?
The ancestors don't eat it, obviously, because whatever. I
So
don't
it's just
know.
there.
Which is also interesting because,
Yeah.
like, it's the world. Anyway, so food is a high.
Yeah.
Very complex. But they are living to please their gods, to please their ancestors. So they are making decisions based on what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
You know, I'm like, wow, what an interesting
yeah.
worldview.
Yeah.
Well,
love it.
We do love it.
It is so cool, yeah.
Okay, guys. Question number 7. I'm so proud of us for making it through. Okay, what is the meaning of human history? And at first, I was like, I don't get this question. Like, why is there a history question? But this question is basically, what was literally the point of everything that happened before us? If I'm here right now, then what was the point of anything that happened?
What is your purpose, right? Like, it kind of falls in line with that, I feel like.
Yeah. Or like, yeah.
Don't look at the, because I was looking it up, and it's like not so much like the time thing. It's more like what's been. How did the phrase? It's like, the purpose through the time almost.
Yeah. And it's like, were we just dropped here just to live our little lives and then go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or is there that bigger picture purpose? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So some people might say there is no innate meaning, and meaning is just what humans make it out to be. Another one, is time an illusion? Does meaning reveal the purpose of the gods? Is meaning found from discovering and fulfilling the purpose of God? Yeah. For me, it's the meaning of things is figuring out like what God meant by it. Mm-hmm. Like that we have a purpose here, and it's like finding out what that is. And then like joining in with it, you know, like the big picture of humanity, the big picture of the world.
Yeah.
Because then you're viewing it not just like temporal again, like here we're just in this little spot, but
and I think to answer this question, like I was saying, it's like not to look at like the time frame of things, or like what is the meaning of the rest of my life? Like, don't think of it like the time there. Like, think of it more like what is the meaning? Like, that's I feel like
what is meaning?
Yeah, what is meaning? You know, not necessarily like in 70 years of life or whatever. 75.
We gotta up your life expectancy.
I know. Anyway, the thing is, right? Like, you're not. When you get to like 75, 80. It's tough, isn't it? Like,
I don't know. I've never been there.
It must be. I mean, whoever's listening to this and they're 80 years old, like, it must be tough.
Hey, possibly my great uncle. He's a fan. So, Uncle Paul, if you're listening, first of all, hey, thanks for watching.
Big P. Cool.
And then, guys, we got a little bonus question. Basically, what are you gonna do about it? Right? Like, what core commitments and beliefs do you have because of your worldview? Because if we profess to have a worldview and then we're living our life completely not with it, then we're hypocrites.
Yeah.
Right? And if they're values. So if I say, oh no, there's definitely an afterlife and there's definitely supernatural and like there's definitely eternal, but I'm living as if that it's just about instant gratification or just the temporal or just the physical, then I'm not connecting.
Yeah.
You know, like those aren't connecting.
Yeah.
So it's important that we know our worldview so we can actually live them out. And maybe you think you have a worldview and it's actually not your worldview, or you need to get your actions consistent with your worldview.
Yeah.
But
I feel like these 7 questions are a good little basis to try and answer, to try and figure things out. Because even if you do know what you stand on and are firm on that, like, it's still good to like, it's almost like print it from like up in your head to paper and just like, oh yeah, this is actually what it looks like.
Exactly.
And I feel like you just understand things better.
Yeah.
I have to write things down the process better.
Yeah.
So yeah. It just helps clear those minds out.
Yeah.
Yeah, thoughts out.
And when someone's having a conversation with you too, and you're like, why do I not agree? Like, I don't know why I don't agree with this, you know, but like, why?
And
then you can know.
Literally, yeah.
And literally, this does help. I just copied you. Literally, this helps us to attack topics and not people.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, when you understand that this person is just living in a completely different worldview than you. Like, it's not their fault for not getting it. You know what I mean? Which is maybe that's just what I need to hear today. I feel like I keep on saying this.
No,
I think
you're right.
This is mine.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. And it helps us from just arguing aimlessly about things as well, right? Because we want to have those hard conversations, but they will turn into aimless arguments if you're just trying to force the other person to see from your perspective.
Yeah. And remember, this is someone's reality as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even. I feel like it's very easy to talk about the different perspectives or worldviews and stuff, but it's just talking about it, when you actually like see someone who's living in it, it's so different.
And there are reasons that they view the world that way. Like it's not just, again, they didn't wake up one day and go, oh, I'm going to decide everything's an illusion today. And then, no, like there's experiences.
There's context, there's history. Yeah.
So
it's good.
Let's have grace and compassion.
Yes. Brilliant.
But yeah.
Well, I am buzzing.
I know. This is
into
good.
This. Yeah.
This is a good.
I feel like, our aim through this would be like, we love to interview people and just have anyone really who's on just slightly different perspective to us.
Yes. If you have any ideas, or if you're like, oh my gosh, I know someone that.
Please, give us a shout.
Because we do want to be challenged in this.
Yes, we do.
We love it. Awesome. Well, Zach, I think it's the end of the episode.
It is, yeah. Cool.
In the meantime, as always, where can they find us before our next episode?
Team, we are on YouTube, on Instagram, on all podcast platforms, and we are on TikTok.
There you go.
Which is coming more. Yeah.
That's If you have any suggestions, I got some TikTok dances saved, but I don't know if they're actually going to make it to the light of day.
We'll see, yeah.
We'll see. Well, guys, thank you again so much for joining us. Remember, attack topics and not people. And we will see you next week.
See you later.